Mr. Reed, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, I think we definitely have to stand and vigorously enforce the laws as it comes to the offender, because the offender will then go back when he or she is deported and tell folks back in whatever country they're coming from illegally and say, don't do it. Right now, the message is being sent back, well, it doesn't really matter. Because like you said, Matt, there's a slap on the wrist. Nothing really occurs. Nothing really happens. And they look the other way. I mean, I can tell you when I was the mayor of Corning, we had a situation where there were illegal workers down on our Market Street area doing a project. We did the right thing. Our law enforcement went over, did the inquiries, determined they didn't have ID. We called ICE, the immigration police, to deal with the issue out of Buffalo. They essentially laughed at us and just said, well, if you want to hold them, we'll get there maybe in a couple months. That's the wrong policy of a federal official, and that individual should have been held accountable and be forced to enforce the laws around the books.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. All right, this is a fun question. In an increasingly polarized nation's capital, if elected, how do you plan to work across the aisle with members of the opposing party? Mr. Reed, 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think what we've hopefully been able to demonstrate to people as we've gone on the campaign trail for over a year, and Emery Houghton, a former congressman of this district, is a big supporter of ours. And I disagree with Amo on certain philosophical points. I want to put us on a spectrum. I'm probably more conservative than Amo. But what Amo and I always shared was a common belief that you always wanted to conduct yourself as a statesman. You always wanted to conduct yourself as someone who was willing to listen to the other side. And that's where I think Amo, when he supported our campaign and is chairman of our campaign, as he said to me, Tom, what I like about you is you won't compromise your principles, but you'll compromise and have the discussion on issues. And that way you're informed. And we're not born with this knowledge. No one's born with it. You have to do the work to gain the information. And that means reaching out and looking at both sides of the issues. And I have no problem telling somebody, that's a great idea. And I'll give you credit for it. Ronald Reagan's quote is the most apt quote I think that's out there. The quote that says, it's amazing what we can accomplish if you don't care who gets credit for it. I've given Matt credit on the campaign trail for some of the ideas that we've kicked around. The Department of Defense programs that he's proposed to cut, the Humvee program. I don't care who puts the solution on the table. It's about getting the solutions done, and that's what you're going to see in us. And we have no problem reaching out and talking to anyone.
Mr. Zeller, you have 2 minutes.
As I said, tonight's not just about our stance on the issues, it's about character and leadership. I learned something in the Army. I learned the ability to lead people. I learned the importance of management skills, and most importantly, the importance of compromise. See, we used to have a class of leaders in this country who could look across at each other and say, you know what? I recognize that the problems we face aren't Republican or Democrat, they're American. And I also recognize that on point A, we're never going to agree. And that's okay. See, we forgot that it's okay to agree to disagree in this country. We need leaders who understand that. We're willing to look at each other and say, on point A, I am never going to agree with you, but on B, C, and D, well, hey, you know what? Let's form a coalition of the moment because we both think this is a good idea. Let's both work to getting this passed. So that's my commitment to you. As your representative, we're probably always collectively, not going to get along. There's probably 1,000 different opinions in this room alone, but that's okay. We should learn to find the areas where we can work together to get bills and legislation passed that benefits all of us. And that's my promise to you. I'm always going to be honest. I'm always going to be upfront. You're always going to hear what I think our plan or solutions should be. But ultimately, I'm not going to be beholden to a particular party. I'm going to be beholden to you. See, I consider this to be a job interview. I'm applying to be your representative in Congress, which means when it comes time to have my job performance evaluated in 2 years, if you don't like what I'm doing, fire me. But we need to get back to a time in our country in which our leaders stand there and say, you know what? It's okay to agree to disagree. And that's how you learn to get along. You do it by example. I'm going to go down to Washington and say, this is who I am, folks. I represent these type of people. We're pretty independent-minded, but we're willing to work with you on areas where we can find compromise, where we can find that we actually agree. But I don't want to go down and just say, to heck with it, you're never going to possibly get along. That's what we have. There's a bunch of people who get down there and say, I'm Republican, you're Democrat, to heck with it, we're never going to talk to each other. Let's just focus on getting this agenda passed and not listening to the other side. That's got to stop.
Thank you, Mr. Zeller. Mr. Reed,
Amen. Like I also articulated, I agree. It's got to stop. We've also taken a position on our budget proposal of drawing the line in the sand. You know, $3.8 trillion was the federal budget last year. We said what we support as a policy is $3.8 trillion next year is the line. And then we cut 5% each year thereafter, and hopefully down the road in X number of years we'll get to a balanced situation because the economy will recover. I bring that up because what I'm trying to do with that is try to force the debate. And when you force that debate, ideas are going to have to be put on the table because we're going to have to hit that mark of $3.8 trillion. And what we will do, what I will do, is I will applaud the other side. That's what I referred to when I said I give Matt credit for the Department of Defense. That happened in a debate. We drew the line. He indicated he wouldn't touch this, this, and that, and threw two proposals on the table that we're going to cut $250 million. That's what it's about, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we're going to do. Force the debate.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Who cares about the credit?
Mr. Zeller, you have 1 minute for rebuttal.
We forced the debate this year on a provision in our nation's laws to extend health care benefits to 9/11 responders. And what we saw was our national leadership fail all of us because 157 Republicans decided that guys who ran into a burning building on 9/11 didn't earn health care benefits, and they voted it down. I think that's abhorrent. We have to get away from this. We've got to get back to a point in our nation's history where we don't really even care about party affiliation, where we send people who are going to do the right thing going forward. That's what I represent, folks. My generation just went and fought 2 wars. We're coming home. We want jobs, we want Social Security, we want affordable health care, we want affordable education, and we're going to go down and we're going to get these things accomplished because we're sick and tired as politics as usual, just like you are. That's what I offer you, and a new way of thinking about this. A person who actually has the demonstrated leadership ability to go down, enact legislation, get plans passed, but also to build coalitions of the moment because I'm willing to say, you know what, it's okay to agree to disagree. I can compromise. We have a generation of leaders who currently can't do that.
Thank you, Mr. Zeller. All right, now it's time for closing statements from both of our candidates. Mr. Reed, we will begin with you. You have 1 minute.
Well, thank you again, Andrew, for moderating. You did a great job for your first time.
Edward, but that's okay.
Edward. Have I been calling you Andrew all night?
No,
Yeah,
that's fine.
Edward's
Probably.
good.
Yeah.
That shows the commitment I hope that we've demonstrated to you. We got up this morning, went to Randolph, met with juniors and seniors, traveling all over the district, and that's what we're going to continue to do. And I mean no disrespect. What we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen, is our future. And you're absolutely right when we have to come together and deal with the issues that we face as a nation. Because at the end of the day, we are all American. That's what this process is about. That's why I'm not afraid of it. We're going to have 11 debates when it's all said and done. Because it's time to truly have the dialogue in America. And we are going to be a voice down in Washington, D.C. that is going to drive that debate. We are going to force that debate. And we're going to finally get our fiscal house in order. It is time for our nation to learn to live within its means again, because if it does not, there will be no American nation to hand off to my children,
and
your children, or your grandchildren.
Thank you, Tim. Tom. Mr. Zeller, you have 1 minute for your closing.
How do you follow that? Thanks to everybody for coming. As I said at the beginning of this debate, it's not just about where we stand on the issues, it's about leadership and character. Now, what you heard tonight were 2 very different people with very different visions for our country. Tom wants to take it back, I want to move us forward. Tom provided you a lot of his opinions and his philosophy. I gave you solutions. That's what I offer to you. I'm asking you for your vote. If you want someone who has the proven capability to lead in the most toughest of circumstances and accomplish the most difficult of tasks, someone who has the leadership, the management, and most importantly, the integrity and compromise skills to accomplish those things, please vote for me to be your next member of the House of Representatives this November 2nd. Thank you very much for doing your civic obligation, because history is made by those who show up, so thank you very much for showing up. And please remember, as Tom and I would say, you got to vote twice. All right, you got to vote twice. Thank you very much.
All right, everyone, this concludes our 2010 Voice of the Voter debate between the candidates in the 29th Congressional District. Tonight's event was sponsored by Nazareth College and presented by WXXI AM 1370 and FM HD2 Rochester. It was supported in part by the Community Foundation. From the Nazareth College Arts Center, I'm Edward Moody. Thank you all and have a great night.